Hello, everybody. This episode is about the coronavirus that we're dealing with right now, end of March 2020, and our fear response and how we're going to get through it. Because all things need to be understood for us emotionally, psychologically, in terms of our mental health. So the coronavirus is causing an elevation of our natural fear response. I've talked about on this channel. Go look at the episodes if you want to learn more about what I'm saying, but we have 4 emotional categories, primary emotional responses and categories: joy, anger, fear, and sadness. So everybody in the world who knows about this, which is probably most people right now, has an elevated fear response because of what could happen to any one of us from getting this virus. So we're all in this together. We're all feeling the same thing together, whether for ourselves or our loved ones or all of the above, or the planet, our communities. But the point is, we all have a natural, normal, healthy fear response. The fear response is just as important and just as vital and just as good for us as the joy response. But for all of us, it is at least a bit elevated, and that's normal. With that, we may be short with each other, we may be not talkative, we may be so many things that we can do from having a fear response. And so let's understand each other best by understanding that everybody's fear response is a bit elevated. So if someone who you love very much, who's a big part of your life, and they're kind of short with you and it's unusual, this is probably why. So just be understanding and understanding of yourself as well. And part of our response together is making sure that we take care of ourselves and each other like a lot. I know I never thought I would say this sentence, which is love each other, maybe love each other more, but keep your distance. That's an unusual thing all by itself, is to emphasize how much we need to love each other and take care of each other and to keep our distance, because that's how we're going to stop the spread, obviously. But it's an amazing concept just to think about that all by itself. There are many things that you can do to help mitigate the effects of an elevated fear response, or mitigate means reduce it, buffer it. The first and most important thing are mutually caring relationships. You care about each other, you believe in each other, and you trust each other, and you're there for each other. Mutually caring relationships, I've got an upcoming episode about that, in fact, to define that, but that is our healthiest thing. That is the healthiest thing in our lives, our mutually caring relationships. So to emphasize those right now as much as humanly possible, even though we have to keep some sort of distance. Something I'm recommending a lot to people here, this is a rural area, but we can go outside for walks, obviously. So for a lot of people now, as the weather's getting better here in late March, is to spend time with people you love and friends and family, whatever, outside for walks, hikes, keep 10 feet apart, hang out in the woods, sit on some logs 10 feet apart, whatever. Spend hours doing that. That's a really good idea to do right now. So that's the first thing. The next thing is just the classic diet, exercise, and sleep, because that will help your body and your mind and yourself obviously remain as healthy as possible. And then if you want to throw in things like mindfulness-based stress reduction, do that. That's a really good thing to do. If you haven't heard about it already, just Google mindfulness-based stress reduction. You will find a lot of, on YouTube, a lot of videos about that. You'll even find some classes you could sign up for. But it's a way of refocusing your conscious attention, and a way of breathing, and a way of absolutely calming down in the face of the fear response. They usually call it stress, but stress typically is the fear response. So that is a great program to add to your life if you need that to go on. As a clinician, one of my biggest worries about the human race is generalized anxiety disorder, which is a high or elevated persistent or chronic continuous fear response. I'll be coming out with an episode soon about how that happens because of continuous toxic stress raises the fear response to feel more continuous. We have a term for that clinically, we call that generalized anxiety disorder. We also know that there's this part of the brain that's a big player in the fear response called the amygdala. We know it gets bigger and more activated because of toxic stress over time. And we know that when that happens, a person feels continuously or almost continuously anxious and avoids life and so many things. It's an understandable experience and the response to it in terms of not wanting to do much. But anyway, this virus, the coronavirus, obviously because we're all have an elevated fear response, if you're already really elevated and continuous because of generalized anxiety, and it's going to be worse. And I'm really concerned about the millions and millions of people who feel that way. Now, the first thing you can do, and it works, and I want to emphasize this, is that you can take a serotonin-based medication. So the science tells us that serotonin-based medications like Lexapro and Zoloft, science tells us that serotonin shrinks the size and activity level of the amygdala. Science over continuous research and studies over and over again shows that serotonin does that. No other chemical that I've run across yet in my reading of the research, but serotonin. So Wellbutrin doesn't do it. It has nothing to do with serotonin. But the serotonin-based, just only serotonin-related, like Lexapro and Zoloft, do it. And if you start taking that medication now with generalized anxiety disorder, which may be worse, in fact, because of the virus, over time, that amygdala shrinks and shrinks. And other things happen, too, in the brain and the body. I'm just going to focus on this right now. But it shrinks and shrinks and shrinks to sink back to a normal size, and you feel so much better. So if you feel this way, this generalized continuous anxiety, high fear response, continuous, go see your doctor, ask for that medication, and go on it. It works. It works like every time. Now, there's one big tip. That is, sometimes these medications have the reverse effect and cause more anxiety initially. Like if you start a medication like Lexapro and 7 days later, I'm a therapist, not a doctor, but I talk to people all the time about this and doctors about this. But if you start it and 7 days later, your anxiety has gone up, be in contact with your doctor. I urge you to switch to a different one because that does it. It's for some reason, some drugs, medications like Lexapro or Zoloft will cause someone to have, especially Prozac, just in my anecdotal experience, cause people to have an elevated, more than even before fear. And they say, well, I'm not taking that medication. That made me feel worse. And it did. You just want to switch to another one. Switch to another one. If 7 days after you start, it's gotten worse, be in touch with your doctor or provider and switch to a different one, period. Again, I'm a therapist, not a doctor, but I cannot emphasize that enough. 9 times out of 10, these things work incredibly well on the first try. If it doesn't, switch to a different medication. But it's serotonin-based medication that will shrink your amygdala, the part of your brain that's really important here, and you will feel better, especially in light of this virus and everybody's elevated fear response. Finally, we all need hope. Part of treating an elevated fear response is a hope, just like depression, hope that things are going to get better, and they will. So the big hope, and one day will happen, is they will figure out a vaccine. They're already in the testing phases, and we'll get it, and it will eliminate it. That's the big hope, right? But until then, right now we're in containment, stay at home, don't go out much, just groceries and medications maybe if you need them. Otherwise, so many things are happening, but containment, staying at home, is the big way to treat it right now as a mass society. Obviously, people who get sick need to get treatment if they need it. That's a whole nother thing. I just want to focus on phase 2, because phase 3 is vaccination. Phase 2, I heard about someone, smart person, national security person said, this is what we do in a pandemic protocol, which is, protocol means A, B, C, D, E. So protocol, the next phase that we need to get into, and maybe this summer in the United States of America, is testing, tracking, and treating. This is what I heard. So testing, having millions of tests available now, or by then, at any time for someone to get tested if they fear, they wonder, they've been exposed to somebody with the virus. Same day testing, we get results the same day. That's happening around the world. We need to have that. So urge your elected leaders to get that done immediately. Call your legislators, your congressperson, United States Senator, the President of the United States, and get same day testing as soon as humanly possible for anybody who needs it. Because right now people are getting tested, have to wait a week. I mean, really? So same day testing. So that's the first thing, testing. Tracking means that if I am tested and yes, I have the virus, they're going to track my social contacts and be in touch with them and maybe test them. So because of testing, we can track all these people we've been in contact with and make sure they're okay. Get them tested, get them treatment, if whatever, or isolate them until it goes away. That way we slow it down big time, big time. Finally, treatments or treating, there's probably thousands, I don't know, hundreds, at least thousands of scientists and doctors and others around the world, because this is worldwide, figuring out what things we can do to treat the effects of the virus, like to mitigate or reduce the symptoms so that people don't get as sick and certainly don't die. So I can imagine, I don't know this, but I can imagine by the summer we're going to have some stuff that we can use, that doctors can use, and hopefully sooner than later. So when we get into that zone of testing, tracking, and treating, I'm hoping we can resume life for the most part. Back to school, back to work, all that businesses up and running, people get back with their jobs and incomes, because we need to get to that phase before vaccinations, which may not happen, like to have available to us till the summer of 2021. So we need this next phase to happen, and it will give us hope, reduce our fear response, and we'll feel better emotionally, which is the purpose of my channel, is all of that. So stay tuned for all these changes. Stay at home for now. Stay safe. Love each other more. Just keep your distance, just a respectable difference. Hang out together with the distance. Be outside if you can. And we will get through this. Take good care.